What's up, guys? It's Cameron Fous with FousAlerts.com. It is November 20th. Just want to talk about some trades of the day. Some of the stocks we traded had a nice little day. A couple of stocks that we flipped very quickly for profits. The market is starting to peak out here a little bit. We hit 16,000 for the last 3 days in a row. And we just have had, this kind of choppy action coming up here. We've had a huge run since, what is this, October about 10th. So we've been straight up since October 10th. We're definitely due for a pullback. The last 3 days or so have been a very choppy intraday sessions. A lot of stocks have just made quick spikes to the upside before starting to fall. I definitely think that we should, it's just necessary that we get a pullback in the market. What goes up must come down. And it's good to have these pullbacks. It allows these charts to reset so that we can get some more opportunities and more chart patterns to form up here for us to continue to have, a good Fous 4 patterns in the future. But I just want to talk about some of the stocks that I've been trading over the past couple days here. First, I want to talk about AMRN. This was one that I, totally missed out on. Yesterday, I went long on this at 162. We'll come back to the intraday chart here. This was an F1 pattern that I was following, hoping to see a nice breakout to the upside. Unfortunately, I got stopped out by like a penny here and just missed the trade. So here's the opening, gap open. Basically always with the F1 patterns, it usually starts out with some sort of news and a big spike in volume, as you can see down here, plus usually a gap open or some kind of spike right at the open with volume that's coming in. And a lot of times, before it breaks out to the upside, it might come down and retest the 13 EMA and the 1 minute chart, which is sitting right here at about 162, as you can see here, indicated by this yellow line. So I waited for the breakout. It looks like it could have all of a sudden just spiked here. A lot of times with these F1s, it might only form up to, a couple candles before it just absolutely rips if it has some bullish news out. And this did have news out, and some insiders recently just bought it about 154 for 50,000 shares. So there's, several catalysts there, but you really never know what a stock's going to do. So it's always important that you give these F patterns a little time to form up. Sometimes they just rip right out of the gates. Other times they might pull back right off the highs. As you can see here, it hit 169. Next thing you know, it's down to almost 160. But I bought in on the support dip here at 163. Looked like we were spiking up, and then next thing we started selling off hard again. So at that point, I took the executive decision and decided that I didn't want to lose on this trade. So I sold it for a $100 loss. I had 10,000 shares, got out at 162. From there, it kind of just stabilized and actually formed up an F2 breakout pattern that triggered at 169. I didn't buy back into this. This was also a buy trigger here at 162 here again. You can see, it kind of is just stabilized at about 160 and then spiked on volume when it broke out 162. So that was another, potential buy trigger. There's buy triggers left and right every day. Not all of them just all of a sudden rip, but sometimes they do. And it's good, potentially identify these if you want to get back in. But after getting stopped out of it right away, that kind of messes with your mental state a little bit. So I did not buy back in, and I was also doing a live webinar explaining and doing I was doing a live demo of the new chat room as this was happening as well. But that did break out this nice looking F2 pattern that broke out here. Once it's triggered, it was a perfect triangle pattern. At this point, I had no idea if this was just going to all of a sudden explode or not, but it absolutely did. With F patterns, you never know which ones are going to explode. The best thing to do is identify the pattern, go in and trade the plan of how F patterns work, which is once it breaks out of that F pattern, it needs to hold above the neckline, and after that, follow the 13 EMA trend based on whatever interval you're looking at. For instance, I was looking at 1 minute charts for the most part, but you can use 1 minute, 2 minute, or 5 minute charts. This just basically ripped and rode the 1 minute 13 EMA all the way up to about 188 after this broke at about 169. I bought in initially at 163. I would have been up huge on that, over $3,000 if I was still long. If I would have held on to that position with those 10,000 shares. Unfortunately, just had that quick little pullback and stopped me out right out of the gates and had that false breakout signal there. From there, this ripped all the way up to about $2, over $2 per share. But, that's an F pattern right there. That triggered right at 170, and it ripped right out of the gates right in the first, couple hours, which is typically when I trade the most. So that was the AMRN trade. Unfortunately, I just, barely missed trade that by a penny, and you know, that happens. But it was a great looking pattern, and it eventually did start working out. Next one I want to talk about is DRWI. This was another very, very quick trade today. You know, this was just basically a momentum volume play. I called this out in chat here this morning. It was kind of a, you know, almost as if this was the opening bell that happened. As you can see, this was the opening price right here, and it didn't do anything all day long. And then randomly, I don't even believe there was any news. This thing just all of a sudden spiked here majorly on about 300,000 shares right here. So at this point, you know, I called this out in chat saying, hey, there's something definitely up here on DRWI. Not really sure. Mic check.